afford myself at least one beer. That's about all I can do.
Well,
I can't even drink liquor, and I can only do like one or two beers, and that's it.
we are live, by the way. Welcome to the Redeye stream number 283, counting down to the big 300 when we retire the series. Today we're going to be talking about Notre Dame. Yeah, it burnt down. We already know that. But what we didn't know until recently is they're doing what to Notre Dame? What the fuck is Macron doing, Doku?
Oh, so Macron, in his infinite fucking wisdom, wants to rebuild Notre Dame to reflect the diverse culture that is France. Fuck you, Macron. Fuck you. Fuck all of your global elitist fucking jackass pieces of shit in Brussels. Fuck your elitists. Fuck everyone who's donating to this shit. Fuck the people who are fucking supporting this new age fucking trying to rebuild this historical structure to reflect our glorious society. Fuck all of you. Screw you. Go to hell. You're all a bunch of fucking pieces of shit. You're fucking betraying your culture. You're taking a piss on the fucking French people. You're taking a piss on the fucking the people that actually want to see France restored or at least maintain some semblance of what it was. No, let's put a fucking I can't even remember, like, what's the prayer tower?
Minaret.
Yeah, the minaret. You want to put a minaret up there. You want structural improvements, quote, that resemble both that of a mosque, a synagogue, a cathedral. You want a glass dome in it? Like, fuck you, dude. Like, just Macron, go fuck yourself.
Well, first off, where's the white flag go? Just wondering.
Apparently everywhere. You know what's funny, Doku, is that actually reminds me of one of the instances where the Templars were actually given a specific place in Jerusalem to renovate into a church, basically. But the problem is that it was a bit of a conundrum. See, if they renovated this specific area that was technically part of the Dome of the Rock, then there probably would have been some societal backlash. So instead what they did is they turned part of it into a church, and then part of it was kept as a mosque. And what's funny is that I think that's actually rather reflective.
The Dome of the Rock in Jerusalem, that's a Jewish place, right?
No, that's a Muslim place. You're thinking of the Wailing Wall.
Thank you.
So they converted this specific. It's not even the Dome of the Rock itself. It's like a side area. You know, it's next to the Dome of the Rock, but the Templars kept part of it as a mosque. And it's funny because I kind of imagine Europe as a whole kind of in this kind of predicament. You have so many Islamic immigrants and everything that you can't possibly let them go without representation, without having some sort of societal backlash. And that's kind of what that reminds me of in a weird way.
Wait a minute. Batman, wait.
I started first.
What type of fucking representation do they need inside a cathedral? A Catholic holy place. Catholic. How about we go build a cathedral in Mecca? How well will that fucking work out?
Well,
now you can go, Batman.
Well, but there's not any Europeans in Mecca.
I was going to say that's exactly what I want to do. Let them go home.
See, this is my issue with it. If the larger societal conflict of our current era were not such a thing, and you know what I'm talking about without really getting into it, I wouldn't necessarily mind that much. I would still not be okay with it, but that's my personal opinion. But this seems a bit much. I understand it's a place of worship. It's a Catholic cathedral, but it is at the same time still a historical monument. And given the current situation in Europe, I don't view this as something that is appropriate. Okay. If you want to build a mosque, go ahead, be my guest, but not Notre Dame. not Notre Dame.
Okay, I'll tone it down just a little bit. Here's my problem. All right, it is a Catholic holy place, and it survived many wars, for one, including World War II. But also, it was a property of the Catholic Church until 1905, when the French signed a law taking it. They stole it. They stole it from the Catholic Church, and now they're gonna make it represent the Jewish faith and the Muslim faith. Why not the Mormons? Let's throw them in there too. Hell, let's have a fucking Pentecostal up in that bitch.
Please, not the Mormons.
What about carnival show? Why don't we put in a Hindu temple as well? Hell, we'll put in the Taoist temple.
Well, that's the problem, is that I think that from our position, right, I don't mean to argue devil's advocate, but from our position, this is something that is completely unreasonable, because this is typically, it's Catholic, it's of Catholic construction, but
it's not just, if it is, sorry, go ahead. I'll wait.
If it is in fact property of the state, as Mad Dodge has claimed, and which I know what he's referencing, it is in fact property of the state, technically speaking, due to the fact that it is a historical monument, then do they not have the ability to turn it into whatever they want? They could tear it down and turn it into a fucking Burger King if they had the will with all. But this
Western.
That's true, but I mean, they're not going to do that. They're going to capitulate to the ruling minority that demands representation, and if they don't get representation, then they throw a fit, just like they do in these German camps when they don't get gummy worms and fucking Nutella.
Let them.
They don't throw a fit; they throw fire bombs. There's a difference.
No, and that's the thing. If it was,
as Maddie's saying, it's not. It is. It is a Catholic historical relic. It's not just a Catholic historical relic. It's a Western historic relic.
If it was anything other than Notre Dame, then that'd be one thing. But
Notre Dame is in America.
Notre Dame, sorry.
Right.
If it was anything other than that, all right, whatever. I probably wouldn't agree with it, but I wouldn't care as much. But just the fact of the historical significance, not even the religious significance, but the historical significance of this structure, and then wanting to completely retrofit it to be, quote, quote, more reflective of our current diverse culture, as Macron would put it.
It wasn't built by a modern diverse culture. That's why it should remain the way it was.
Yeah, exactly. So this is the same problem I have with trying to rewrite history or tear down statues or try to the redefining of words. No, rebuild it to the way it was. Leave it as is. If you want to build a new structure, I don't care if you want to build a mosque across the frickin' river from the damn thing, but don't try to transform it into something that it's not.
Can you imagine if there was a tragic accident in Mecca and the Kaaba got damaged and and we tried to insist that they put a Christian church in there as well as the Muslim stuff?
Oh, there would be massive outrage.
Did you guys read from the chat yet? I'm sorry, my son had a bloody nose. I had to take care of that, so I didn't hear a word you guys said. Did you read from the chat? Because Maddie
did not
with us. All right, yeah. Mad Woman Mises says it's always been Catholic and needs to stay that way. Damn it, all in caps too, on purpose. So, yeah. I mean, this is kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, well, one of the other things that I think people need to focus on is, where is the Notre Dame Cathedral? It's in Paris, and Paris is in the northern part of France. The northern part of France is notorious for being far more liberal-leaning versus the southern part, which is far more conservative, and that's where a majority of Catholics are concentrated.
It's especially in Paris. And Paris is hated throughout France.
I understand that, but Paris is an incredibly liberal and quote unquote open-minded city. So you're not talking about a lot of open resistance when it comes to remodeling the Notre Dame Cathedral, because not a lot of people are going to have problems with this in Paris. But it's a surprising as far as European atheism goes, which is becoming more and more prominent throughout the years, France is still surprisingly Catholic, especially in the southern region, like Toulouse and Lyon, right? These are more Catholic than not. So I'm very curious to see what the response is. Very curious indeed.
Well, and that's the thing. It's not just the fact that it's a Catholic cathedral. I mean, it is, and it's staunchly Catholic. It's not Lutheran. It's not a synagogue. It's not a mosque. It's a Catholic cathedral, and it's also a historic Catholic cathedral. It's not just a religious monument, but also historic, and it is a cathedral and a place of worship. So I'm sorry. Yeah, so I'm sorry. No, like, you're bastardizing it by trying to rebuild it in a way that quote represents diversity. Like, no, fuck you. Get out of here with that. Rebuild it the way it was, the way it's meant to be. I don't care if I'm not Catholic. I'm agnostic. But no, this is bullshit. I do not agree with it at all.
It's a direct attack on Western culture.
And if it wasn't if our modern society was not the way that it is currently, if the issues going on in Europe were not the way that they are right now, if you didn't have crosses being torn down on Christian churches because we're afraid of offending the atheists or the Muslims or whoever else, there's I already posted a video about, in cemeteries, crosses being covered up in cemeteries because they're afraid crosses are going to offend Muslim migrants. I'm sorry. No, screw you. Like, I'm not okay with this.
Nope.
And again, I'm not Catholic. I'm agnostic.
And can I point something else out in chat, which has got nothing to do with this whatsoever, but I find it amusing. Due to a typo, Maddie has given our favourite Mr. Jimenez a new nickname.
Faker. Oh boy.
He shall henceforth be known as Faker.
Fake. Oh boy. But see, what would happen if we tried to cover up or tear down the religious symbols of, say, a synagogue or a mosque or anything else? There would be massive outcry.
Well, sorry to bump into you, but it's another thing in chat. Can I give Maddie the link?
What would you say if I already threw it out there?
Okay, cool.
Because I'm familiar with her, so I know she's not up to anything nefarious.
Wait, what was that? I was outside.
Too late. We've already decided.
So 40 ounce. Would you agree with me on just this one point? Because I'm curious. If it was a mutual back and forth of tolerance, where it's like, oh, I find this offensive, but I'm willing to maybe hand you an olive branch if you'll reciprocate. But it's a one-way thing. It's not a two-way thing. It's just, nope, Christians are fucking evil. They're bad. Let's cover up the crosses. Let's not offend the people who aren't even born in this fucking country because we don't want to offend them. No, fuck you. Like, if you think this is offensive, go back to
Doku, the modern generation has forgotten an important thing. Tolerance is a two-way street.
I was about to say, that didn't sound so much a question as much a statement.
Yeah.
Well, that's my opinion. I'm just curious as to where you fall on it.
Well, my whole thing is I'm a Christian spiritualist, so I'm basically what I would a lot of people consider me non-denominational because I mainly think the problem with spirituality is organized religion. Way too much mentality of it's my way or the highway. That aside, Christians have kowtowed long enough. How much longer are we going to go, okay, we don't want to do this because we don't want to offend you. We need to stop doing that. And I'm sorry. I'm tired of turning the other cheek. We turned the other cheek on 9/11 when we let them build a fucking mosque after their own terrorists brought down the Twin Towers. Nobody said fuck you to them then. Nobody's saying fuck you to them in Sri Lanka, and nobody's saying fuck you to them in France. This needs to stop.
Yeah.
Well, and
I would disagree.
And the other thing is that I don't know how often you guys go about 4chan, for instance, but I go there, maybe every 2-3 days or something like that.
That
and
would explain the worried look.
And the thing is that a good point was actually raised on 4chan.
Yeah.
So you guys might not know this as much as I do, but there actually have been retaliatory attacks for the Christchurch massacre. Right. So churches have been vandalized. Churches have been burned down. Synagogues have actually been attacked as well in retaliation for the Christchurch massacre. So that does make me wonder how much of an accident this was, quote unquote, because hypothetically speaking, you're talking about France, one of the most Catholic countries in Europe, and the monument to their spirituality has in fact been attacked, or has been in fact been, desecrated.
So bump in a bit. The attacks on churches and even synagogues has been happening before the Christchurch massacre. And it's been happening for years.
Well, I know, but there has been enough of an increase to where it now bears mention.
Well, it was even stated that the attacks on the churches in Sri Lanka was due to the Christchurch in retaliation to it.
Exactly. So now, granted, keeping this within the conversation, within the realm of the Notre Dame Cathedral, I'm not someone who's spiritual at all. I'm rather atheistic. I don't believe in God at all. But that's not to say that I would change anything about the reconstruction of the Notre Dame Cathedral, because the point of the fact is that this was created by a very specific, a very narrow view of these Catholics during that time period. And to reconstruct it at all would be an alteration of history, and it would be an alteration of the views of the artists and the architects of the time. So there would be no other point to reconstruct the Notre Dame Cathedral unless it would be to recreate the kind of architecture and the art that was held within the cathedral at the time. This is the entire point of restoration.
More specifically, what you're saying is to reconstruct it in any other way than what it was originally built as would be essentially, given enough time, revisionism.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, no, and the thing is also, what about all these donations that they received to restore the cathedral to its original state?
Yeah.
Original state, not his Mad Max fucking, I don't know. Let's just let's throw a tower here and a dome over there. How about a mosque? That sounds good. What are you doing?
Well, and that's an excellent point that you've raised, because it's exactly the same kind of activism that we see taking place in the South with the essentially what's the word for it? Iconoclasm, right? Iconoclasm, having Latin roots to essentially the destruction of icons, or the destruction of historic monuments, I suppose, would be like a rough English translation. It's essentially iconoclasm. It's the destruction of history, the destruction of religious iconography. This is essentially what Macron is endorsing at this point.
Yeah.
And there's something important to point out here. And I'm going to use something that's unique to Paris. You can have that mural beneath the Eiffel Tower. Whether you agree or disagree with it, my personal opinion is irrelevant.
Yep.
You're not tearing down the Eiffel Tower to rebuild it into something that is, quote, quote, more reflective of your diverse culture.
Not yet, they're not. But
not yet.
Yeah, Fake in the chat there has come up with a good one. The reconstruction is just them giving a middle finger to both the religion and the country's history.
Yeah. Well, and again, that's the thing. It's not just a religious symbol at this point in time. It is a historical monument as well. And to try to build it back into something that it's not is complete and utter bullshit.
Maybe this is because I was raised Catholic, but it's a cathedral. First and foremost, in my mind, it's not. I always thought it was owned by the papacy still, until today.
Yeah,
until an hour ago. I mean,
it's not just a religious icon. It's not just a historical icon. It's also a cultural fucking icon as well, and that's what's being attacked. Western culture.
Yeah. Well, I mean. Sorry, go on.
Apparently, the Palace of Versailles got up in flames as well recently.
Really?
Apparently.
Yeah, well, and also you have to realize it. Again, if this was an isolated incident, yes, it's still worthy of some outrage, at least, at a bare minimum. But if this was an isolated thing, I would look at it and say, you guys are full of shit. But the fact that, again, crosses are being taken off of churches, churches are being torn down to be replaced with mosques or synagogues, crosses at graveyards, cemeteries, whatever, being covered up because they don't want to offend so and so and so and so. That's bullshit, because at this point in time, you are quite literally either trying to erase completely or, at a bare minimum, hide culture that is hundreds, if not thousands of years old. And that, in my opinion, is horrible, horrible, horrible when it comes to Western culture, because it is revisionist history. That is a terrible, terrible slippery slope to go down.
I mean, I'd consider it equally monstrous if something did happen to the Kabbalah in Mecca and they rebuilt it, in a modernistic way. That's just as monstrous.
Well, no. My question is now goes to the practical. How do you fix the dome without making it collapse in on itself? You're going to use modern technology to create an ancient, structure. I don't know how they're necessarily going to do that practically.
You can use modern technology to recreate a historical structure as long as it maintains the likeness of that structure.
Yeah.
That's really what it boils down to. It doesn't have to be constructed in the exact same way that it was constructed hundreds of years ago. It's about maintaining the likeness of the structure.
Okay, let me clarify. I'm not saying the way it's made. I know that's going to be different. They're going to use cranes and blah, blah, blah. But 40, what I'm saying, though, is to actually fix that, you might, make the rest of the structure weak and fail, right? In the process of fixing it.
Well, I mean, not necessarily. Now, I know this sounds incredibly nerdy, so please humor me for just a moment, but I actually had... Okay, fair enough. One thing I've always wanted to do, right, is I've always dreamt of the recreation of Wolfthorn. So for those who don't know, Wolfthorn is actually a very famous trebuchet constructed by an English king. And upon the construction of the trebuchet outside of a castle wall that was being besieged, the castle actually surrendered immediately. Because the trebuchet was of such great quality and of such great likeness relative to other trebuchets that the castle surrendered immediately. Funny fact is that the English king actually fired upon them anyways because it's giant-ass trebuchet, why the fuck not? But if we were to hypothetically reconstruct this trebuchet or reconstruct Notre Dame Cathedral with modern equipment, it would only be more impervious to future degradation, right? And which I think is actually a good thing. Now, if something in the past was built to such a quality where it withstands the test of time, some like Roman aqueduct or Roman bridge, then there's no point in knocking down this bridge simply due to the fact that it's old and then trying to reconstruct it, because reconstruction would mean, new materials and whatnot. There's no point to that at all. But if something does happen to one of these ancient monuments, and it is the property of the state, and the state does in fact take on some kind of oath to protect the property against vandalism and against degradation, then why would it not be within the state's interest, not only for tourism, not only for spiritual worship, not only for all these other miscellaneous things that you could set to the side, why would it not be within their own interest to maintain these icons, these relics that are held within the church, and in fact the church itself?
Yeah, but it would be. But the thing is, I'm not necessarily sure the French government or even the contractors there can repair this without compensating the structural integrity of the entire structure.
Well, no, and hold on. I think we're getting off on a bit of a tangent that I don't really find necessary to the conversation at hand, at least not the primary argument. It's not.
I do.
But Mad Dodge. Let me finish.
Real quick. This is why it matters. If they can't repair it to its original state, then they have an excuse to make it different. Well, this is why I asked. That's where it connects.
I don't think it's a matter of whether you use cranes or the traditional method in which the Notre Dame Cathedral was originally constructed. It's a matter of how can you get it back to its original state. So I kind of have to agree a little bit.
Well, this is where my argument comes in. As long as you can restore it to the likeness of the original structure, obviously it's not going to be rebuilt exactly as it was. That's just not going to happen.
Actually, if you'll allow it, I know for fact in the UK, because I've seen the reconstruction work done on Durham Cathedral, Durham Castle, and other places in my locale. In the UK, at least, we tend to use the same methods and materials that were originally used. So it's a faithful restoration. I suspect that was what they would do with Notre Dame.
I mean, you can try to do that as closely as possible, but it's not going to be the same no matter how hard you try. It's just not going to happen.
You'd be surprised.
But real quick, this is my problem. And this is exactly the reason that I even brought this up in the first place. To try to alter the structure and its design to make it reflect something that is fundamentally is not. That's where I draw the issue. That's why I have a problem with this. How you reconstruct it, I don't really care so much. I don't care how faithful it is in terms of the building materials and the construction methods, as long as it's restored to the original likeness as close as we can possibly get it to, I'm okay with that. But to try to put a marionette or a glass dome or just turn it into something that it was not, that's where I have a problem. Because I'm sorry, it is a historical structure. It is a Catholic cathedral. It's not a mosque. It's not a synagogue. It's a Catholic cathedral. To try to turn it into anything other than that is not just, in my opinion, a spit on the face of history and a spit on the face of French history in particular, and a spit on the face of anybody who is a devout Catholic. It is, in my opinion, completely revisionist and just an abhorrent attack on what's the word I'm looking for? Someone help me here.
I don't know, but you're kind of running out of steam. Maddie, you tried to jump in there, but all us guys talked over you. Go ahead.
All you mansplainers, jeez, I don't need to. In Georgia, when I used to live in Georgia, and this is a change that's going to lead to the current thing we're talking about. You had an opportunity to get a grant in order to purchase a house that was historically significant to a particular area of Georgia. Let's say a plantation home, okay? But in order to get the grant, you had to agree to rebuild the house to its original specification. In other words, restore any restorations done to the house had to be in accordance with the materials used at the time of the building's construction. In other words, if it was built with pine, you can't turn around and make shit with oak because that would not fit the restoration, guidelines.
That's other than electrical, though, right, Maddie? I'm just butting in for just that because you can modernize it, right?
Yeah, you can for certain reasons upgrade the plumbing. You can upgrade the electrical, but anything that is considered cosmetic or like main to the house, like the frame of the house, the joists and stuff like that. That has to be used from the original type that was used to build a house to begin with. Obviously not 1860 something wood. That wouldn't hold up. But you know what I mean. The same type of wood has to be built. Now, in order to do a faithful restoration of the cathedral, A, it has to remain a cathedral. B, they're going to have to use oak, which isn't cheap. It is a sturdy wood, which is why they used it to begin with. But it is a very expensive wood. In order for them to do a faithful restoration, they would have to do that. And they would also have to find people nowadays that can restore stained glass. Because let's face it, in today's digital era, true artisans are few and far between now, and they're getting harder and harder to find every day with digital art and digital creations.
There are people out there who do that sort of stuff, especially for restorations. They're not cheap people. But before you go on, can I take this moment to say I'm dropping out the stream now. Thank you for having me. And keep talking, Maddie, because you're brilliant.
So to me, it does have to, in order to change it in any way, would be to fly in the face of the original artisans that built it to begin with, too. And to add any other religion to it would be a spit in the face of Christianity and Catholicism, as well as the culture, as well as the history. And it flies in the face of the culture that built it to begin with all those many centuries ago. If you're going to restore it to the way it was, not the way you want it to be, because then it's not a restoration, it's a reconstruction.
Oh, and actually, this is real quick. This is what this is the word I was trying to think of. It feels like what Macron is trying to do is nothing more than an opportunistic attempt at subversion of the culture for his own political gains and agendas. Not because he gives a shit about the actual structure itself or its historical significance or its religious significance, but it is a complete and utter political opportunistic action so that he can subvert the culture. Yeah, well, to virtue signal, but also subvert the culture.
Okay, yeah, no, and we got a couple people that jumped in. Eldritch God, how are you doing tonight, man? And go ahead, what's your thoughts on Macron here? God damn the French.
Farty's busy with a job, so he can't do the recording the news. That's kind of why I jumped on while I'm waiting for him. But what's my opinion of this? Quite simple. Macron is sucking some serious Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, cock. I mean, seriously. Why is he only bringing in Islam, okay? Bring in the Wiccans, bring in the Zoroastrians, bring in the Shinto Hinduism, and whatever religion those guys that eat babies do. I think it's called baby eatism or something. I can't believe I forgot that. Anyway, I mean, my freaking God. I mean, does he even get to choose? I mean, doesn't the Pope come down? I mean, we know the Pope is cucked as hell right now. I mean, the guy is practically kissing Islam's feet. But seriously, at least you pass the buck to this guy, okay? But holy crap, why is the French government even getting to choose what to do with this damn structure?
They own it.
Because they own it technically. But the other thing is that a lot of people tend to forget is that MADDS actually reminded me of something. Is that actually quite some time ago, there was an accident, ironically on 9/11, that ended with a destruction of a part of the of Mecca. Ironically, lightning had struck a crane, and the crane had fallen over and destroyed a few parts of Mecca. But they rebuilt it to the kind of exact specifications, just as MADDS here was talking about MWM. So there's not any kind of catering to any kind of weird specific subset of the population that took place during that reconstruction of Mecca. But that's not to say that I don't understand why any sort of pandering should take place during this reconstruction, just because there is a loud, vocal onslaught of a certain subsect of population, whatever the case might be. But the problem is that Macron, a lot like a lot of like Democrats over in the U.S., are going to pander to this group of people because they are a valid voter base now, very much like the Black population or the Latino population. Oh, sorry, excuse me, Latinx. But this is now a valid population when you're talking about a voter base. So why would you not come out in defense of them if you're someone who is a hyper liberal? It only makes sense. It only makes sense at this point. If I was a Democrat, I would most certainly pander to the Muslim population.
Is that why AOC panders to the people with, borderline IQ?
Well, I mean, I would certainly say so, but I mean, it's, at this point, and we should expect this far more in the future, this is something to be expected. Whenever there is a terrorist attack that happens in a mosque, or whenever anything involving the Muslim people is introduced into Western culture, Expect people on the far left to start pandering to said subsects of the population. Expect this to happen far more often. You know, this should be something that we come to expect far more often than we do at the moment, unfortunately.
Well, no, and the thing is, though, someone brought up, Eldritch, you brought up the Pope should be raising some hell, quote unquote, over this, right? No, he's too busy sending money to the migrant caravans in Mexico right now. Did you hear that story today?
I will give you this. A lot of the Pope's Catholic bases in the Central America. So it wouldn't surprise me if in the next 50 years they move the Vatican over there. I mean, that's where it's going. But
yeah,
that I think is a strict political move for him sucking up to Central America. But that all said, now the guy is simply, I don't know what's wrong with him. I really don't. This is not your fierce defender of Catholicism. This guy is just a cock. There's no other way to describe it. He literally has kissed, a Muslim's feet. I mean, Jesus Christ, man. Jesus Christ has got to come back. Go give him a smack upside the head and said, "What the fuck, man? What the fuck?"
Well, real quick, I want to address what 40 had said. And when I saw what happened with Notre Dame, I jokingly said, they're gonna rebuild it, but they're gonna put a mosque in its place. And I said that half jokingly, if the structure proper had completely burned to the ground. So when I saw this, the story come out about how they want to make it, more representative of the diverse French population, I both laughed and kind of wanted to smack my head against a brick wall, because it's like, are you fucking kidding me? It's kind of absurd how willing these politicians are to pander to these specific groups and completely subvert and turn their backs on culture and history just for the sake of pandering to a voter bloc so that they can somehow maintain power in whatever way, shape, or form they see fit to do so. And that, in my opinion, is probably the ultimate spit in the face. That's where I really have the biggest issue.
The thing is this, and I've ever since this started happening slowly here and there, I have nicknamed it the culture of the squeaky wheel, because it's always a minority nowadays seeking social justice that is yelling the loudest or being the squeakiest. And in order to shut them up, you got to give them the grease. And this is all that's been going on for the past 2-3 years now, because people have.
I'd say 10.
10. Okay. Well, I mean, it's just I've just actually been paying attention to it since 2015, 2016.
It's only really gone into overdrive since Trump took over and basically said, "Fuck you."
Yeah,
and they have no idea how to deal with them because these people have no empathy. I keep wondering if it's something hormonal, and by hormonal I mean like birth control pills tend to make women less likely to be attracted to men and have less empathy. So I'm wondering if there's like a subset of the population that really reacts negatively to birth control pills and becomes these nut jobs. Because when you look at the studies, these feminist wackos really exemplify what happens if you take way too much birth control hormones. But that all said, there and done here, there seems to be a dedicated set of the population, which is nuts. And unfortunately, people think these people are important. And when they're finally ignored by Trump, they lose it. They go insane. And that's why you're noticing it now. They're acting out because they're going, but my oppression. Guess what? I always like to do this one. You know what? If somebody has a lot of privilege and they suddenly lose it, it feels like oppression. Oh, that's a burn. Because they use that one on men all the time.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, it's just my whole thing about this is, it's not that he's not only ignoring them, is whenever they call for him to apologize, he doesn't, because he knows that's a trap. Because all these people that have spoken their mind and then retracted via an apology of some sort cannot seem to stop apologizing, because they can't "I'm sorry" enough, because it's never going to be enough for these people. So just say whatever the hell you want to say it however the hell you want to say it, and when they come whining, just pop a pacifier in their fucking mouth and walk away. Because You can't appease these people. They're always going to find something wrong.
You know what the weird thing is this flashes me back to when I was working for a law firm. I was only there about a year, but one of the things we were always told to look for is look for apologies. Look for apologies, look for apologies, because an apology is an admission of guilt. You know, if you could get you to say, I'm sorry for X, we had you.
Well, no, and first off, somebody needs to make a meme of Pence and Trump inside Congress with, you know, I have a bad feeling about this on it. Just saying, a good Star Wars reference there. But also, I'm reading the chat here. I'm going to have to scroll up. But that Norwegian guy brought up some good points. The curators are in charge of the restoration, and they want it restored to its original status. So, yeah, there's that.
Melissa doesn't like me, Mad Dodge. I'm hurt. I'm hurt.
His name is literally that Norwegian guy. I thought you were talking about someone else. Sorry.
It's like I've had friends that, you know, I've got friends that I have found out now how left they are, and we'll get into a discussion. And I am extremely blunt. I don't mince words. I cut to the chase. I tell you exactly what I'm feeling at the moment. And as soon as they go, well, I'm offended, I said, did I word it in a manner that did not, you know, appease you, is what I would ask. And they go, well, what you said was wrong. I said, no, what I said is backed up with facts. I may not have said it in a pleasing manner, but that's not my problem.
Do you really have friends that have told you they're offended?
Yeah, I was going to ask, what's it like to have friends?
See, here's the trick. If I apologize for how I said something, not what I said. And I had one friend that called me out on that. They're like, well, you apologize for being blunt, but you didn't apologize for X, Y, and Z. I said, because I'm not sorry for saying X, Y, and Z, just how I said it.
Well, I think all the friends I had that would have been offended buggered off after they found out my stance on abortion. So, you know, there's
friends. What's it like to have friends anyways?
Oh, you should have heard. You should have heard all my friends that got offended during the whole argument about the Confederate battle flag issue. Because I literally on Facebook changed my profile to the Confederate, me, a Cuban, to the Confederate battle flag and put as a caption, I believe in the heritage and not the hate.
Oh, everybody knows my stance on the flag. They didn't even talk to me about it on Facebook.
Oh,
I didn't get a single message. They knew better.
Oh, I had one friend that go, you did that on purpose because you want to see how many people you piss off. I went, maybe.
Well, that's how it's fought this night. This is a cultural civil war. It simply is. It's just reached a point where it's a bloodless civil war. But I guarantee you, there was a statistic once I read, you need at least 3% of your population willing to take up arms in order to have a civil war. Well, we've got at least 3% of the population pissed off enough to rant and rave on Twitter and Facebook and wherever. So if we're not in the middle of a cultural civil war, I don't know what the hell we're in the middle of.
Well, no, and look at the streets, Antifa, you know, the yellow vest protests in France, the upheaval in all corners of Britain. I mean, Brexit, anybody? Is that ever going to fucking happen? Oh, Batman's gone. I should have asked that earlier.
Yeah, right. You missed your opportunity. No, the other thing I said on Facebook so many ago, I said it's going to start with the flag, then it's going to go to the monuments, and then you guys are going to try erasing history everywhere. And one of my friends was like, "You're overreacting." I went, "What happened in Cuba when Castro took over? History books were burnt. It was rewritten. I'm not overreacting. I'm seeing this happen in small amounts now. What starts out small grows unless you stop it."
I get the same thing on my end because I'm from Poland. My mother was a refugee, my father an orphan. And when I look back over my family's history, all the Jews in my family got killed off by the Nazis and everybody else got killed by the commies. And so when you start to, I had a black guy literally say, you know, we were enslaved for 150 years. And I said, really? Well, about 80 years ago, my ancestors got pushed into a labor camp and worked to death. So I think I'm one up on you.
Right?
I mean, these people really do not understand that something else happened other than their own personal lives.
Well, it's like people don't understand how, because my parents, obviously, both of them being from Cuba, they taught me the history and what happened. My mom bore witness to the coup that happened that kicked Batista out and got Castro in power. And when I told her that I was doing a kind of a blog and video document history on Cuba, and I asked her if she could write down what it was like for her living in that time during that change of power, her exact response to me was, I have to be in a certain frame of mind for that, and I'm just not there right now.
Yeah, I don't
You
get
have my
any,
sympathies.
I don't get any of those points. My ancestors owned a giant plantation in Shreveport, Louisiana. Yeah.
Oh, you privileged fuck.
I just want to say this real quick here. I'm against unfettered, immigration, but in my opinion, Cuba is one of those countries that deserves an exception.
Yeah.
Because, I looked at you guys' history, man, and Jesus Christ, we should have done something a long time ago.
My mom, when people sit there and they tell her, well, Batista was before Castro, she, number one, yes, I know, I was there. She replies. It's just, and number two, Batista may have not been all unicorns and rainbows, but he was a hell of a lot better than Fidel.
Here's a question for you, Maddie. How did you feel about them going over there and playing a baseball game and having Obama actually show up in Cuba? Did you think that was a good thing, or was that legitimizing the Castro regime?
As much as I hate to give them any kind of credit for intelligence, both Fidel and Raul are very, very intelligent. They know how to play people, they know how to read people, and they know how to do shit to get their way. They allowed a baseball game to be played there, and they allowed Obama to be there to give the general public a sense that, oh yeah, they're going to be more open and allow more people in, and they're going to allow tourism now. The problem is you don't see the dark side, and allowing tourism has grossly inflated the groceries down there to the point where Cubans are now struggling to buy black beans and rice.
I got a question for you, because I tried to do this. I do know a couple of people from Cuba up here in New York, and I always ask the same question. I have this theory that if we just stopped with all the embargoes and stuff and just tried to channel as much capitalism at them as possible, that might break the communism of Cuba. Do you think that's possible or no?
You would have to get rid of Raul. Raul is worse, according to both my parents. Raul was worse than Fidel. Both of them hate capitalism in any form.
So it wouldn't matter as long as he's in charge.
It wouldn't matter as long as he was in charge. You can throw all the money at it you want, as long as he's getting something and you're not demanding anything in return. He's not going to make any changes.
Just so you know, I've heard that same answer about twice now.
Well, real quick, 40, it looks like you were chopping at the bit there. Either that or calling us losers and about ready to leave. What's going on?
Oh, no, sorry to dominate. No, please go ahead.
No, here's the thing. I've actually heard that as well. That Castro's brother is, his brother is a bit more of a dominatrix than he is. Mm-hmm. But capitalism inevitably finds a way. And that way is through the solidifications and establishment of black markets. And this happened specifically within Russia. There were, especially during the latter part of Russia before the Soviet Union fell, there were plenty of groups of people that were actually smuggling Adidas sportswear into Russia. And in fact, Adidas is currently viewed as a kind of social status. The older your tracksuit, the more prestigious you are, funny enough. But Adidas were certainly sought after during the communist control of Russia at the time. And, Levi jeans were another one of the things, not pop music, what's it called? Like funk music, for example, the kind of hip hop of the 60s, 70s, and 80s was highly sought after in Russia. And granted, Russia has a massive border, so maybe it's a little more easier to sneak some of those supplies into Russia and to distribute them amongst the population that are willing to pay for the Levi jeans and the Adidas tracksuits and the funk and the hip hop and whatnot. But Cuba will inevitably collapse because that's just simply what capitalism is good at. It's good at undermining the kind of establishment that are in control of the government and that demand that certain prices are set and demand that there be certain regulations and so forth on the economy. Capitalism will inevitably find a way. It's just a matter of time. And it might take another 50 years, but this is only temporary.
Well, no, and I'd love to go over there just to find me an old Chevy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's very true.
By the way, if you're
Well-
going by the life cycle of communism, it's usually about 75 years.
Yeah.
That's also true. I've heard that as well. It's
Well-
literally like, what is it? This is like 50 to like 90 years or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, and see, that's the problem. Sorry to cut you off. That's the problem you're fundamentally going to run into, regardless if you're in an unregulated capitalistic society, or if you're in a control economy that you would encounter in, say, like a very, very heavy socialist economy or a communistic society. There's not going to be any real middle ground. It just depends on who controls the factors and means of production. You can have one end of the spectrum or the other. You're going to run into the same problems. It just depends on what problem are you going to run into.
Yeah.
Communism tends to crush people under the wheel a lot quicker than capitalism does, because the one thing capitalism has that communism, or more specifically a control economy based upon statism, doesn't have, is that capitalism at least seeks profit. And you're not really going to be able to pursue profit if all of your workers are dead or dying, or you can't grow wheat in the wheat fields. Statist economies don't really have that problem because they don't necessarily care.
Yeah.
Hence why they also tend to wage war more frequently.
Well, no, go ahead, Maddie.
Yeah, I see 40's point, and I always grew up having not only relatives here, but relatives that would come here from there on visas, and some that wouldn't make it because even though they'd have all the papers filled out, they'd have the visa and the money for the ticket. Your last vestige or the last stand of Cuba would be that soldier standing next to the ladder going into the plane going, "I'm sorry, you're not going anywhere. Even though your visa's okay and all your papers are in order, you're not going anywhere."
Yeah.
There's also the from here back there. I remember one of my granduncles visiting, and we were buying him things. And the day it was time for him to go back, he changed back into what we would consider rags that we had picked him up at the airport on, and he was very worried about weighing his bag. And I said, "Why are you weighing your bag? And we bought you clothes. Why are you going back wearing that?" And he goes, "Well, first of all, if I go through customs, anything in this bag that is over 70 pounds, they will just open the bag and start throwing things out until it's 70 pounds and close it up. And they don't care what it is." I said, in other words, if it's like 75 pounds, he goes, "If it's 75 pounds or 74 pounds of that is medicine I'm bringing back to the family, that 74 pounds is getting thrown out. That 4 extra pounds is getting thrown out until it gets down to 70 pounds. He goes, "Number 2, the reason I'm wearing what you consider rags, even though you bought me blue jeans and t-shirts and ball caps and new tennis shoes, is because if I were to land in some of those new clothes, by the time I made it to my house, I'd be lucky if I had my new underwear on." He said, "You people in the United States take things for granted." He said, "Something as simple as tweezers. Every household, you go to any household in this United States, I bet you somebody has at least one set of tweezers, right?" I went, "Well, yeah, I was 12." So I'm like, "Well, yeah." He goes, "Down there, we fight over tweezers because not every household has a set."
Damn.
Well, and again, that's the problem you run into when it comes to statism. Even a regulated free market economy can still regulate things based upon the needs of the individual, or at least a smaller community, going from group to group at a bare minimum. When it comes to statism, the state does not care because the state is never efficient. It never has been. It never will be. If you go throughout history, find me one somewhat large statist economy that actually can meet the needs of every single individual. Find me one bureaucrat who can meet the needs of every single individual and do so in an efficient and fair manner.
Well, no, and this is a good argument against communism on a whole, because if you can't make it work on a tiny island nation like Cuba, how are you going to make it work in the United States of America?
You won't. It's never worked.
By the point of Kalashnikov, comrade.
Well, it's like I keep frustrating one person that I go back and forth with on Twitter every once in a blue moon, and it always goes back to socialism. It always goes back to communism. I said, "You think one or the other is so great? Do me a favor." He said, "What?" I said, "When you get the money, get yourself a visa. Why don't you see how long you last in Cuba or Venezuela? You'll be back in 3 weeks or less."
Well, I don't know. I heard you could show up there with a bunch of American currency and live like a king in some of those South American countries, right?
Yeah, not if you can buy your house before you land at the goddamn airport.
Oh, and just real quick to address the chat, Cass, the state is usually pretty good at war. That's why the founding fathers would argue that that would be the only thing that they have control of. And yes, the state is very good at war because you always have your kit. Every soldier gets everything they need to go into warfare. That is the one unifying factor. That is the ultimate deciding factor. Nobody is any different than anybody else, except maybe your commanding officers. And even they're no different from the other commanding officers. When it comes to an economy, if I have medication, or if I have food, or if I need water, free exchange. This is where I wrote a paper on this, and I'm going to state this in as simple of a manner as possible.
As short of a manner?
No, not short, but simple. The problem with Karl Marx is he hates the idea of this bourgeoisie, whether it's the monarchs or the people that control the factories. He hated the idea of free exchange. That's why Marxism and socialism does not work. Because let's say I have a family of 5. The guy next to me has a family of 3. Well, I can't have free exchange. So how am I going to feed my family of 5 and the guy next to me is going to feed his family of 3 if we all have the same rations? That works in an army. I'm one person. It doesn't work in a normal free market economy because you're not allowed the freedom of exchange. And Karl Marx ultimately expresses this disdain for the idea of free exchange, let alone, God forbid, the pursuit of profit. That's why these socialist, communist societies fundamentally crumble, because they're not free market. People aren't allowed to determine what they need in order for their own survival.
Yeah, but we all know that.
I would disagree slightly on why it crumbles. I don't think it's strictly a capitalism overwhelms its situation, because I can point to a number of situations where socialism does work. Your army is socialistic. Yes, everybody's getting paid a salary.
Well,
but
you know what? No. This will the army work.
No. Let me finish.
No, let him finish.
It is to each their need and ability. If you're a good unit, you get more ammunition. If you're somewhere in the back, everybody gets fed. Everybody's taken care of. But what do they do to everybody coming into the army? They break you down for 6 weeks. They beat the shit out of you, and then they build you back up with an intense loyalty to the army. That's why it works, because everybody is putting the army or the Navy or whatever the armed force it is first. Without that coherency, without that single concept that is holding them all together, yes, it will fail. And that's why communism fails in all other places, because you can't brainwash an entire country.
But also, that's the thing. If you wanted socialism to work, what you're ultimately going to have to do is take a page out of Warhammer 40,000 and build a war world and just make everybody a fucking conscript.
That's what you have to do. I mean, that's why it should never be done.
Real quick, I think me and 40 are in the same boat here. We're both trying to cut in. 40, go ahead.
God damn it. Okay. I have to disagree. With you just a bit, Eldritch God, and Dooku ever so slightly. Here's the thing. The military inherently, I agree, is collectivist, because you do have to break people down. You have to essentially break people's morality. You have to break who they are as an individual, and then you have to remold them to serve a greater purpose. The purpose of the securing of the sovereignty, or the securing of the security of the nation, right? I agree that there is a kind of collectivist mentality when it comes to the formation of a military, a standing army. But what makes the United States Army the greatest is the fact that we are not even that collectivist relative to other nations when it comes to the formation of a kind of standing army, a military force. If you look at the actual the command structure of the military, there's an incredible amount of liberalism built into our military. We allow officers and everything to make judgment calls based on the scenarios due to the fact that we recognize that not every engagement is built the same. You don't have the same amount of unit structures. You don't have the same amount of resources available to you. Maybe one unit's out of patrol, can't get the reinforcement of artillery or air support or whatever the case might be. And so we allow different scenarios to take precedent over others, right? There is a bit of liberalism built into the construction of our military, and there is a bit of it's not as collectivist as people think the U.S. military might be. There is a kind of liberalism inherently built into our military.
Well, that's also why we have a.
Did I die?
No,
no, you're good now.
But before I
okay.
speak, I want other people to have their chance because I ranted a lot.
Oh,
okay. Now I just wanted to make a quick point. Yes, you are correct. We do have specialization within our military, and that's why our military is flexible and effective, as opposed to just conscripting whoever the hell we want and just giving them a rifle and being like, "Hey, go jump on the front lines."
Well, just to clarify my position here, I don't really see socialism and authoritarianism necessarily together. You can be a pretty liberal socialist if you do what our U.S. Army does, which is they stick to groups that are well below the Dunbar empathy limit, which is another way of helping to keep a collective together. If you try to be friends with too many people, you can't do it. You just can't. There is a maximum limit of people who you can be friendly with. I mean, just say, this is somebody I would sit down and have a drink with at a bar. Over 320, the human mind is simply not capable of it. And I would dare say that it's probably for most people much lower. But what does the U.S. Army do? They encourage these small units. And maybe they'll put the small units together with a bunch of other small units, but they won't go, I forget what the number is, but they won't really go much over a couple hundred there.
150.
150, which is the halfway mark. In fact, if you're looking at the original number for the Dunbar empathy limit, it was 148. So that's pretty much what they do, is you have these small groups and they encourage great loyalty between the small group. And that's why you can take and let them out there and and that's what makes America great, is that we throw our men out there and all other armies go, what the fuck are these guys doing? They don't make any sense. They're all over the place. They're marching backwards and forwards. That's why we kicked Germany's ass in World War II, is the Americans. They don't fight like you're supposed to. I mean, that's how it works. That's why we've embraced this. And so that's why I say, in a way, it is a socialism that, quote, works, but it doesn't work outside of that framework. And you really can't do it.
I'm curious to see MC's little injection here. He is apparently, it sounds as though he disagrees with me. I'm curious what he's thinking.
Yeah, I'm wondering why MC hasn't said anything, because you guys are arguing like children over the.
By the way, how did you get here from the Notre Dame fire?
I have no idea.
Welcome to the Redeye.
No, that's all I had to say, and now I'm leaving. Bye.
Bye.
There you go, MC. The people want to hear you, or at least one person.
Sharadi, I think what happened was we went from Notre Dame to talking about Macron to talking about governments to talking about liberalism, which sort of slipped into communism and socialism in Cuba, and now here we are. And leave it to somebody with ADD to figure out how we got here. So
But real communism hasn't been tried yet.
I am so tired of people saying
at all. That's not a natural destination.
Right?
I need to take some more vaccines because I am not autistic enough yet.
Shit, dude.
I do want to hear what MC has to say.
All right, I'll speak up then.
Yeah, go on, MC. You should have spoken up earlier.
The training that the military gives you, all right, is to break down.
Come on, MC. You can do it, MC.
Can you guys not hear me?
We can hear you. He's just teasing you.
Oh, okay. The training the military gives you is not to break down your morality. In fact, it is to a point to sit there and overlay it with the military's morality. All right. And if you come about it from the perspective of, well, it's immoral to kill, they are going to train you to have that capability. All right. But the idea is not to create intense loyalty to the Army overall, but to create loyalty to the unit, to subsume the individual ideals, all right, to create unit goals rather than individual goals, all right, and stress the achievement of unit goals versus individual goals. It's for the purpose of turning you into a soldier, all right, as opposed to a warrior. Okay, it's not. It's also there, all right, to create a respect for hierarchy, all right, and a very strict code to hierarchy. Now 40 is somewhat correct in that the United States military doesn't function like the standard militaries that you see in Europe, or especially like with the Soviet doctrines and so forth, where there's just blind adherence to orders, all right, directly. All right. Yes, the United States military has always relied more on the initiative of the individual units rather than the overall arching authority of the military commanders. All right. But that's an aspect more about the focus being on small unit tactics rather than the large movements of armies. It's a difference in how they fought wars. The United States fought wars differently, all right, from its very beginning, from its very founding. It fought under small unit tactics. It was most effective under small unit tactics, all right? So it still stresses the need for those. It's this, unlike the great armies of Europe back in the 1700s, where they were forming up as large masses and trying to move forward as a collective. That's what makes the United States military quite a bit different from that perspective.
Can I ask you a question, MC?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if the military takes care of its own and all that, and it's mainly a authoritative system, which I don't disagree, why does it work on that level, but it doesn't work at a national level? And why, when a national government that is communistic tries to create an efficient military, they never live up to what, I don't know, Great Britain or the United States can do?
Well, that has to do with a number of factors. I would not undersell or talk about the militaries of, for example, the ex-Soviet Union. It was a very powerful military. I think people really misunderstand and really don't appreciate the power and the bravery and actually the skill of the Soviet military at the time. All right. Yes, it did have flaws. The main flaw, of course, that it has is in a modern industrial, setting. Okay, the West outclasses it. Okay, we have better weapons, we have stronger weapons, etc. Okay, now why doesn't it work on a nation state level? You got to remember that the military in the United States is directly subordinated to the civilian populace. And it's done that way through the Constitution of the United States.
I know, but we were talking about communism and its relation to militaries, and that's what
the communism uses the military to suppress the populace. In the United States, the military is suppressed by the populace.
Actually, I have a question for MC. Would you argue that the structure of the United States military represents the way that the structure of our nation is put together, where armies under generals act as their own separate armies doing what they do under, say, a larger structure and operating towards a fundamental goal, but somewhat independently to try to achieve that objective, in the same way that states under the Union do what's best for them, but also still operating under the same goal? Because
I think that the United States military operates differently, not so much from a societal structure per se, but from, well, I mean, you could look at it from a cultural structure. All right.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm going with. It seems like the way that our military is structured and the way it operates is very much a product of the way the culture of the United States and how our country is founded and operated, as opposed to, say, something like the Soviet Union or the Chinese Liberation Army.
I think it has more to do with the success of the how the military successes than anything else. The military successes as we fought wars with internally. It has to do with the fighting that we've had to do. For example, in the Revolutionary War, in the War of 1812, in the Indian Wars, even in the Civil War. Right, you have a lot of small unit activity and a lot of success in those environments. I think it makes the biggest difference.
Soviet Army wasn't that great. T-72 sucks dick.
Oh, no. You got more to say than that, 40. It looked like you were doing the pee dance over there. Like, what do you got?
No,
the T-72 didn't compare to the M60. That's probably true. All right. However, for every M60 that we had, they had 5 freaking T-72s.
It's still not that good as saying the Tiger.
Everyone keeps beefing up like Soviet Russia. I'm like, people keep forgetting that just because Soviet Russia prioritizes in numbers doesn't inherently mean that they'll win every single battle.
Just because you prioritize numbers doesn't mean you win every battle either.
and that's true, but at the same time, numbers have a quality and a quantity, all of its own, especially from a military perspective.
Listen,
it gives you capabilities. All right, when you've got a far larger amount of troops, it gives you far more flexibility than you deal with on a smaller number. To counterbalance that, our units were small unit activities were more flexible. So it's just a different philosophy.
Listen, we're just gonna have to agree to disagree. I'm just saying.
The Russian war would disagree with you.
I'm just saying T-72, T-80, not that great. Not that great. I'm just gonna say American military is better. Russia wasn't that great during the Cold War. Fuck Russia.
But you could hit everything with a wrench and it would still work. You gotta admire that.
Agree to disagree.
No, but MC, what's your thoughts about Notre Dame to connect it all back around?
Well, I think that Macron is looking at it from the standpoint of this is a national asset, and he wants to try and create some kind of national fervor along those lines. And at the same time, you got to remember there were the weekend of the fire, the Saturday before Easter. You had the protesters out, the yellow vest protesters, and they started to become violent again. And they were all carrying signs that how dare you talk about rebuilding Notre Dame when we're out here, starving to death, these kind of ridiculous signs that they were doing. Where was our relief? So Macron was trying to placate I don't think he was trying to placate the Muslims per se. I think he was trying to placate the yellow vest protesters and trying to tamp it down as much as possible. Nobody has any answer to that?
No. I am just shocked at my oldest daughter right now. What are you guys talking about? Notre Dame? What's that? I'm like, the Hunchback of Notre Dame? That's a real place. It is? Oh my God.
It's time to homeschool.
It's purely, honestly, when it comes to Macron, I think this is purely political move, because if you look at the incident, there's 3 ways to play this. He can either use it as a way to further divide and demonize the yellow vest. He can use it. If he's lucky, he can use it a way to try to unify the French people, or if nothing else, he can use it as a way to point the finger and get help and or sympathy or what the fuck ever is going through his head.
For a minute, didn't they have articles dedicated to talking shit about the yellow vests being involved in such a burning?
Oh yeah,
when it happened. Not even when the fires were cold,
That actually does sound familiar.
There's again, he's using it as a political. We still don't know the full cause or who's responsible or anything like that. he's using it to a political advantage, and that's really what it boils down to.
Yeah, of course. Politicians. What do you expect?
Trying to rebuild it in the way that he's trying to do, again, is a political move. I think it's a stupid one.
Yeah.
But again, it's political, and this is kind of the reason that I'm irritated with it, because it's like, Notre Dame, you're spitting in the face of your, and I'm not even going to go from the religious standpoint of it, but you're spitting in the face of your people. Like, that should be a national treasure at this point in time.
I mean, it could really speak to already. Wasn't his approval rating long before like barely 15% or something?
Oh no, he hit like a low of like 18, I believe.
Oof. Okay, there we go. Well, like his numbers are awful. That should already explain to you how much people like him and how much he really cares about them, especially his statements about the yellow vests in comparison.
Oh, he's desperate. He's desperate, and he's desperate to demonize the
kind
yellow
of comes
vests.
across the sort of like medieval times. Go back to your holes, peasants.
There was.
Go ahead.
Sorry. I was about to say that was. Yeah. Cass, that was you talking. Yellow vest anger burns in France, fueled by Notre Dame fire. So they're essentially blaming the Notre Dame fire on some of the protests that took place within the Yellow Vest movement. So you're correct. They're not saying that the Yellow Vest burned down the Notre Dame.
It's more like they're insinuating in their own way.
Yeah, they're insinuating that the Yellow Vests are somehow mixed up with this fire.
Well, there are a couple of articles out there that the Yellow Vests, are protesting now that, Notre Dame is severely damaged, even though, a lot of, if all the stuff was pretty much, all the inside stuff, all the artifacts and stuff didn't come to much harm, if any. But they're still hollering, what about us, after all the donations came out to rebuild the church and all this. Now, my question is, what I would love to see happen, and probably won't, but I would absolutely love it, is if Macron got his way to rebuild it the way he wants to rebuild it, I would absolutely love everybody who contributed money to the restoration to want their fucking money back, because that's not what they gave it for in the first place. Well, that would be great. It may not happen, but it would be absolutely wonderful to see if it did.
When push comes to shove, do you honestly expect them to actually go through this Macron asshole to actually go through the effort of like rebuilding this without pulling some additional political bullshit on the side?
Well, we already.
Well, I'm trying to assess this because I came here a little later than what most of you are talking about.
The idea, though, that Catholics are conservative, they're not really conservative.
Yeah, I don't understand that argument either.
Yeah, so are they necessarily going to be up in arms about this? Is that why the Pope hasn't said a word? Because he is in agreement?
Well, I mean, people tend to forget that religion is religion at the end of the day, and if they are very in tune with their religion, then it would be expected they would be somewhat upset about it, would they?
Well, no, and here's the thing, though. There is the Jesuits, and there are conservative aspects of the Catholic Church still. But a majority of them are very, very liberal, and that's even European standards, right?
Yeah. I mean, the Orthodoxy in the Roman Catholic Church, I think a lot because of the current schism on the left, from center left all the way out left where nobody wants to roam, is they conflate, they call Catholics conservative because the more staunch ones are, well, we're only going to get married to one person, we don't believe in contraceptives, we don't do this, we don't do that, we don't do the other, and we cover up ourselves, and because we respect ourselves, we respect our bodies, we don't want to do anything to upset our spouse when we're married, we want to raise our children according to God. And a lot of Catholics that are Eastern Orthodox and Roman Catholic, and yes, I said a lot because I don't like generalizing, are probably looking at what's going on with the alphabet movement instead of LGBT, because it has so many letters in it now I've lost count. And they've pretty much said, well, people are losing their minds, so we're just going to be over here. And if you're not with the left, you're conservative or alt-right. That's pretty much the labels now.
Yeah, and there is, sorry, Maddie, but I'm wondering what your opinion is on this. There is still the the Catholics that go out and protest in front of Planned Parenthood and protest abortion and have the idea, Catholic equals pro-life, where there are other Catholics now that are more pro-choice even. I mean, I was raised Catholic. I am now agnostic, but I see a rift in the Catholic Church.
I've seen it. I've seen the schism happening because back in the 1750s, there was one Catholic church. And then it broke into the Roman Catholic and the Eastern Orthodox. And then later on, you saw the Lutheran Catholicism raise its head. And I believe Episcopalian is some sort of offshoot of Catholicism. But now what you're seeing is another schism, and that is how far, which is an answer to the question of how far do we go to follow the Bible? Because remember, Catholics at their core do not believe in contraceptive because dude pulled out, dribbled his sperm on the ground, and God leveled him with a lightning bolt.
What the fuck?
Yeah, that was actually that's the story in the Bible. I can't remember the names, but the guy did not want to impregnate his wife at that time, so he pulled out, dribbled his semen on the floor, and God smited him. So that to the Catholics meant no contraceptives are allowed.
Did I miss something during Bible studies? Like, what the fuck?
No, that's my way of interpreting it because, the Bible is written in a very flowery way with lots of these, theirs, and wherefores and art thous and shit.
Yeah,
Plain English.
Yeah. I imagine as, and thus he pulled out and his spermeth dribbleth upon the flooreth, like
Right.
Right. It's almost as autistic as the time when I was sitting there at church at 10 and they started talking about that one verse about, oh yeah, this bitch got raped. The rapist got to pay 10 shillings now.
Well, and you know what? Here's a question I like to levy against people when they say, "Oh, if you're religious of any sort," but it's usually levied against Christians. If I adhere to two basic principles, turn the other cheek and follow the golden rule of treat other people the way that you want to be treated, then regardless of my religious affiliation, if I follow those two rules, wouldn't that technically make me more on the liberal side? Wouldn't that make me the tolerant one where I don't necessarily have to agree with you, but I am not going to go full on Deus Vult and form a crusade against you? I'll respect your beliefs. I'll treat you the way I want to be treated. I'll follow the golden rule. I'll turn the other cheek. But why does that make me a conservative? I think that actually would make me rather liberal.
Well, you're missing a very important point, sir. The liberals are no longer as tolerant as they claim to be.
Well, see, the problem is, it's like if someone can, like Sargon of Akkad of all people, can be considered conservative or alt-right, it already shows you that being liberal means fucking nothing anymore because the definition is just completely fucked.
Yeah, no, Cass, that is a great fucking point because if Sargon of Akkad is conservative, I'm fucking, I don't know what's worse than that. Holy shit.
I don't even know what to call myself. I don't even know what to call myself anymore. It's kind of a weird, disturbing paradox where you have the conservatives who are quote unquote conservatives who are just like, fuck you, and then you have the quote quote liberals who are just like, if you don't agree with me, then you're some evil fucking literally Hitler, and I'm stuck in the middle like,
well, I can't say Hitler.
I don't know what the fuck to do.
I refuse to put Hitler on the right. He's a damn socialist. He belongs on the left. He's an authoritarian leftist. He's a socialist.
Going on. Let him talk.
Hold on. Cass.
Yeah.
If a man happens to meet a virgin who is not pledged to be married and rapes her, and they are discovered, he shall pay her father 50 shekels of silver. Shekels. Listen. I'm just gonna say. If the price of rape is 50 shekels of silver, then I'm pro rape. I'm just gonna throw that out there.
Oh Lord.
50 shekels of silver. Fuck yes. The Bible has this shit down to a science.
Here we go.
I'm very Christian now.
See, the next time they write the song, instead of doing their usual stuff, they should say something like "Fundies to the right and loonies to the left. Here I am, stuck in the
middle with you."
Well, see, the problem is I was having this argument with someone on Discord. We were talking about how would AOC fall, and I would say AOC would fall simply because of the fact that what it means to be liberal means nothing anymore. Nowadays, they want liberal to mean communist. And then there's a lot of liberals who are in the Democratic Party who don't want to be considered communists. They don't like communism. You got a business Democrats like going after her now a little bit. You got some business people not happy with her that have like millions of dollars on their fucking net worth that want to literally take her down and shit. It's like the Democrats are destroying themselves because right now they're having an impossible time trying to figure out who's the liberal or who's the communist in their party.
Well, you know, the most hilarious thing is that Trump is a business Democrat. He's been that way for his entire life.
It's considered right
Trump
now.
Trump is not a conservative. He's a fucking business Democrat. He's not a conservative.
And you know what? Asinine occasional cortex makes me sad that I have Puerto Ricans as relatives. I swear to God, that woman needs to shut the hell up.
Oh, dude, I don't want her to shut the hell up, man. Why would you... Hold on, Mad Dodge. Why would you want AOC to shut up, though? Like, holy crap, dude. The memes that come out of that woman's mouth, like, Jesus, she is a gift. Like, I have not laughed so hard at someone who's actually a fucking sitting politician in my entire life. She's a meme machine.
Every time she tweets, 9 times out of 10 when she tweets, my eyes roll back in my head so many times. They do an impression of a corkscrew roller coaster.
I just want to point out the irony that this is this child talking about socialism. And then one of the next videos to play is top 10 like Darth Vader moments in Disney XD.
Dude, have you guys seen that freaking what was she, like 8 or 10 years old or something?
Yeah, 8-year-old, yeah.
Dude, that shit
That's
is
who's
hilarious.
on the screen right now.
So funny. It's so funny.
Yeah.
It's like I'm a socialist because I partake in social media. It's like, oh my God, she sounds exactly like her. It's terrifying.
It is. It is very terrifying.
If that's what they think socialism is, I'm going to be really sad.
It honestly wouldn't surprise me at this
I'm
point
just
in
like,
time.
that
It
fucking
really
David
wouldn't.
Just launched the nukes already. Restart button. Welcome to Cloud World, Hong Kong.
And the other thing that comes to mind is if it's 50 shekels to rape a woman, then how many shekels to rape a socialist?
I think you get a discount because of brain damage. I'm not sure.
The socialist gets free helicopter rides.
I just can't get over the fact that they actually used shekels as a form of currency. Technically that'd actually be a form of weight. Because the Jews used not currency but weight. So a shekel is some unit of measure, some unit of weight. So
Yeah,
now
it was a unit of measurement and it had to do with pieces of silver.
I want to know what a shekel is now.
A shekel was equivalent to like the Roman dime. It was basically one piece of silver for a week's work, if I remember correctly.
Oh fuck! Fuck. What's
You
the
really
Greek
are
equivalent?
missing the question. The question isn't how much to rape a socialist. The question is how much to rape an altar boy.
Oh.
Oofed.
Damn, MC coming
That's
out with the
100
fucking
Hail Marys just for the joke, MC.
Well, I can see why socialists hate Christians and Catholics now, because the socialist was the altar boy.
Oh, well.
Let's see. A Roman dime was like 1/10 of a troy ounce of silver, which is 32.5 ounces. So a shekel would have been, like 1.2, 1.4 ounces, I believe, of silver.
Oh, fuck,
Something like that.
was the
You know how
I
much
remember reading
silver
that up.
gold
50
right now?
shillings
Like
is a
20
lot.
bucks.
I think the Greek equivalent was like a denarii or something like that.
Yes,
So it'd be like
something like that.
a hundred denarii for 1 shekel. That's a
Yeah.
lot of denarii.
No, like as far as I know about shekels, is that 50 shekels is a lot actually.
Yeah, that's actually quite a bit now that I'm thinking. I don't know if I'm pro 50 shekels. I think I might have to reduce it to like 15 or 20 if we're talking about, a negotiable price. Negotiable price. Oh my god. Am I a bad person?
Remember, and if you rape a hooker or an escort, it's a discount because they actually wanted it and didn't know it.
And they're not a virgin, right?
Sorry.
Exactly.
That's the whole thing, is we're taking into account the virginity. So if you rape someone who's not a virgin, is it like a 50% discount?
Sorry, sir. This store is only for rape victims.
Well,
The views expressed by the panel on Mad Dodge Productions are not necessarily the views of Mad Dodge Productions or the rest of the
From the words of Plato, hippity hoppity, women are fucking property.
19. No, sorry. No.
Oh my god.
This dream has gotten bad when Dodge has to do his own disclaimer.
Well, now we're counting shekels to rape people. This isn't good.
All right, okay. I'm gonna lighten the mood a little bit. Do you have a problem finding a quality boat? Does any material you use seem to sink? Well, call your local Cuban. We make anything float. Thank you.
How many shekels? That's the question.
How many shekels for a Cuban-made boat?
Oh, fuck me.
Oh man. But no, I bet none of you have seen it, huh? No one's seen the new Cobra Kai season, huh?
No. See the new One Punch Man.
Yeah, I got some free trial just to watch it. It was pretty cool. So you guys should check it out.
Okay, so no, here you go. A shekel was 0.4 ounces of silver. So 0.4
times 50
of a troy ounce. So that would be 32.5 would be a troy ounce. So yeah, 50 shekels. Yeah, you're only looking at like roughly 4 ounces of silver.
Who's Troy? Why are we stealing his silver?
Good job. So hold on, 4 ounces of silver. I wonder how much that would equate to modern day. I'm looking this up.
Modern day is roughly $15-16 per ounce.
Okay, so hold on. You're telling me that if I rape someone, I only have to pay $20 in reparations.
Less than $100, I can tell you that much.
I think I might be pro rape, guys. I'm not gonna lie.
You're in California. That's a bad idea.
Yeah.
That's like being in pro rape in Uganda. You don't want to do that shit.
He's in California. All he's got to do is stare at somebody too long and it's rape.
Well, listen. I'm going to tell you, Uganda, California. If the across the board bracket is $20 in payment, I'm fine with anything. I'm gonna go find some bitches.
Doku, did you say $5 or $15 an ounce?
Roughly $15 per ounce. It's not that low as $5.
It's $60.
Yeah. So yeah, $60. There you go.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing is that do they do comparative pricing?
Oh my god!
I want to know.
Let's see what's silver currently trading at spot. $15.15. That's what the current spot price is.
So 4 ounces of silver, $15 an ounce. You're talking, you're
$60.60.
Yeah, well, 4 ounces, so that'd be $120 if I want to rape someone. Plus, if you take into account the fact that she's not a virgin, also comparative pricing. If you come in with a coupon or something, I mean, you're talking about
grossly obese and can't move. That's another discount.
You're talking an average of $50 to $60 per rape. That doesn't sound that bad.
Oh my god!
Damn, only 0.4. Jeez, that's wow.
We went from spilling seed and getting smited to buying a rape, y'all. This is interesting. Okay.
I'm just saying, $15 an ounce of silver. That's not that bad.
Smoke bomb
That's not that
happiness. Question: how many shekels to rape an altar boy? As far as I know about like fucking Greeks and shit about raping little boys, it's like you don't pay anything. It's like you got like a mastership, and all of a sudden there you go. That's how. I don't remember shekels being involved. Maybe there is.
Well, the other problem is that it comes down to, the Bible's interpretation. Are we talking just strictly females, or are we also talking little boy virgins?
Well,
do you get a discount for little boy pussy?
Well, 40, that would be, is it pre or post Gomorrah? Sorry.
Whatever gets me the biggest discount, honestly. If you're talking about usable pussy, I don't mind.
I am officially never running for office because you guys have fucking screwed that campaign up.
It's okay, Mad Dodge. It's okay, Mad Dodge. They never intended you to take office anyway, because you dare to have an opinion.
Oh my god!
In fact, probably in 15 years' time, we'll all get the news pretty soon. So look forward to that.
God, I'm really having fun. I want to break this down to like a mathematical equation. Like, how many shekels, how many dollars do you have to pay someone in order to rape? Like, I really do want to break this down to a formula.
Oh my god. I can just imagine somebody fighting the stream and trying to tell me I'm pro-rape, and I'm like, I'm a rape victim, motherfucker. If I can joke about rape, you can too.
Okay, so 15 shekels in biblical. Hold on, real quick, Pat. Real quick. Damn it!
This whole issue right now. Go look at the settlements by Michael Jackson. There's your price point.
See, that sounds a little high. And personally, as someone who's molested as a kid, I want to know, how much am I owed? Like, did they cash in any discounts? I want to know how many shekels of silver I'm owed.
Okay, so 15 shekels from biblical Hebrew, according to this, would be 0.37699 pounds.
Oh my god, hold on. Sorry, could you say that one more time? Fucking Jesus Christ. I'm having to do math just to find out how much I cost to rape
You started
someone.
it. I'm just letting you know you started it.
I know.
So if you want 15 shekels, that's 0.37699 pounds. And that's from biblical Hebrew.
Oh, fucking Jesus Christ. So that's 15 shekels. Oh, fucking Jesus Christ. How much was it to fucking rape someone again? Jesus Christ.
You need like 50 shekels, right?
Oh, yes. Thank you. So 50 shekels. How many times does 15 go into 50? That'd be 1.9.
So let's see, 15, 30, 45.
Boy.
15, 35. Let's just round it up. So you're looking at like 1.2-ish pounds. So you're looking at 50 shekels.
Right,
yeah,
so
1.25.
0.25 pounds, right? So that's 1 shekel. That's the original price. All right, divide by triangle. So you're talking like. Okay, so the original price point.
Divide by triangle and not a divide by square.
Yes. So
what about a rhombus? Parallelogram?
And see, this is biblical. This is biblical Hebrew, so it's a little bit different.
So biblical Hebrew, if you divide by trapezoid, you get roughly what we're talking about originally. You're talking about the original price of about $120 per rape. Okay, so the point being, Harvey Weinstein didn't do that much wrong.
What the fuck?
He did about $600. No, hold on.
You got it.
The point being, Harvey Weinstein did about $600 worth of wrong. So that's not that bad. So Weinstein isn't that bad of a dude, then, essentially.
So let's see. Yeah, if you're looking at ounces per pound, you're looking at 28. So yeah, you're looking at less than $150 to rape somebody by biblical standards.
This segment of the live stream has been brought to you by Acme Mind Bleach. Acme Mind Bleach, when you want to forget everything you just heard.
Oh.
Anyone
no wonder
else?
They have that Judas ritual in that frickin' one town in Poland, I think it is.
Oy vey, anyone else feeling Jewy at the moment?
Yeah, they didn't even give him enough. They didn't even give him enough pieces of silver to rape somebody. That's a ripoff.
Oh, boy, goyam.
You
Oy
for
vey.
real
Oy
just
vey.
say that
Oh,
Weinstein was
man.
not that
See you
bad,
later,
if he was
MC.
joking or not?
Oh,
No open
God.
borders for Israel. Goyam.
Wow, the one stream where we go from talking about Notre Dame to like how many shekels it costs to actually have your way with an individual, be it consensual or otherwise.
Well, hey, this was just comparative.
Most definitely otherwise.
Talk about what you like, Goyam. I have all of your shekels already.
I'll keep my shekels, thank you very much.
I was about to say, I'll have you know, I have at least 300 shekels in the bank. That's 2 rapes worth of shekels.
I like he's got raped down to a math.
You are
See,
a very strange individual.
Fucking Plato would be proud.
See, we're only talking about silver though. That means I could toss you like a few nuggets of gold and like, dude, give me a harem.
I was about to
I'll
say,
give you 1 ounce. I'll give you 1 ounce of gold. I'll get like you want like 69 virgins and everything? Like, nah. I'll give you an ounce of gold. I have 100, and I'll have them here in real life. I don't even have to blow myself up.
Oh yeah, we really want to get freaking kicked off of YouTube. We could dig into the Quran sometime.
Right?
well, here's the thing. Here's the thing. An ounce of gold is priced at $1,287. So how many rapes can $1,287 buy you then? Hold on.
Oh, Lord. Here we go with the math again.
Roughly 100, 102, 103.
Well, hold on, the price of a rape is around, you know, like you said, we'll say 150, right, at the most, roughly. So you're talking about 4 point like 3 or 4.4 rapes for an ounce of gold.
It depends on how much mileage of rope you get for each gold.
Again, this stream brought to you by Acme Mind Bleach. Acme Mind Bleach, when you click on a live stream and wonder how the hell you got here.
Okay.
God, just wanted to let you know, you have the CIA in your chat, and Flying Falcon is going nuts.
Well, what's more important is that, touching on previously, so an ounce of gold will get you 4.4 roughly. Well, an ounce of gold will get you roughly 4.4 rapes. That's not including price matching and coupons and whether or not she's a virgin. So
FBI, open up.
Wait, you got coupons in the Bible? Is that in the back pages?
I'm just saying, you're talking about roughly 5 rapes per ounce of gold.
And the CIA is in the chat. Well, 40 is in Cali somewhere. Go after him. He's the one tallying this up.
I can't believe you fuckers made me do math like on my day off. This is bullshit.
No, I think we're gonna wrap it up. I have nothing left. You guys are fucked up.
It was fucking funny, and you know it.
So, Maddie, are you doing your podcast again regularly? What's going on? She's still muted. 40, you're making a video, right? When do you plan on having that out?
Oh, yes. I actually plan to start recording as soon as we're done here. I was actually supposed to get off about an hour ago and start recording, but we started talking about the price of rape. So I'm going to start
Specifically
recording.
shekels.
Specifically within shekels, yes. And
40 ounce. I must tell you something.
Yes.
Okay, I'm back.
But I'm doing a video about the Ballad of Begum, Shamina Begum, one of the very first women to defect to ISIS, and her current battle with the British government to apply for legal aid. And I think it's a very funny story, so I'll have fun.
Oh, I remember hearing about that.
That actually sounds quite interesting to listen to.
Oh, it's very funny. It's very funny. You'll have fun if you listen to it. That's for sure.
All right, I'm looking forward to it. Go check out 40 Ounces channel. On my channel page, he's in the featured channels, so that might be the easiest way to find him. Check it out.
You're in my featured channels. That's so funny.
Anyway, Maddie, are you back to doing your podcast and stuff? I know you got your new apartment and all that, right?
The live stream is a bit sporadic until I get either more memory for the laptop or I get another beast. Because when we went back to go get the computer from the house that was falling apart, someone had broken into it and stolen all my shit, including the computer.
Well, fuck.
Oh.
Now, don't ask me, who looks at a dilapidated house that looks like it's abandoned and think there might be a computer in there. I think it was an inside job, but that's just me. So yeah, we're waiting on either more memory or a new computer. But I do have a secondary channel I'm doing stuff on that's called Maddie's House of Geek. I'm getting ready to upload my live tweeted reaction of the Last Mary Sue. I mean, the Last Jedi. Sorry. My geek channel does cover all things geek, like anime, old TV shows. I'm covering classic anime, by the way. We're talking Battle of the Planets, space, Star Blazers, and all that classic stuff. Before I get to the now, because everybody's covering the now, I want to cover what I grew up with. Damn it, and it's my channel, so there.
Doku, have you seen Endgame yet? I'm just curious. If anyone has, it's probably you.
Oh, yes, I have. And
how bad is it? Especially how bad is the appearance of Captain Marvel? I'm curious about that.
Captain Marvel hit the moments were, but there wasn't enough of it for me to really hate it. This is what I'm going to say about Endgame. Don't go into that movie expecting for like some sort of grandiose plot or anything that really makes sense. It's a gigantic love letter to the fans and the people that have created what is arguably one of the greatest sagas of anything. Okay. 22 movies, but think of it as a 3-hour-long post-credit scene for 22 movies. That's how it feels to me.
Okay.
So it's not bad. Just don't think too much about it. Don't think about it like a critic. Just go into it with some popcorn, a few beers, and just enjoy it for what it is. It's a love letter. That's all it is. Just
okay.
All right. Well, yeah. Tomorrow we got the World War I stream. We're gonna start off a few years before the war and set everything up. That'll be the beginning conversation for episode 1, and then also, of course, we have Behind the Thrones immediately after Game of Thrones. We'll be going
Winter
live.
Is here. Winter is here, Mad Dodge.
It is the battle. Yeah, get your Deadpool ready. It is the battle,
dude.
$10 says Sean lives.
Oh gosh. See, I want to already place bets if you're talking about like the end of the season who lives, but I have Hulu, so I don't have HBO proper. So I'm
we watch it on Rabbit together.
Oh yes! Oh my god, you're fucking awesome. Okay, then
and we watch it at 6 o'clock. I get it for the East Coast times. We're live right after the show.
So 6 o'clock. So that would be 9 o'clock then, Western our time.
No,
correct?
I'm talking our time, 40. I'm in Oregon.
Oh, 6 o'clock our time. Oh yeah. Okay, because it airs live. Okay, I understand. So I will I'll still be there then. I'll be there, and we'll watch it on Rabbit. I'm so fucking excited. Oh my god.
All right,
dude, I can't fucking wait. Real quick, Bad Dodge, I can't wait. Can we nerd out for like 5 minutes? 5 minutes. 5 minutes, motherfucker. Just 5.
Just 5.
All right, you're gonna see a zombie Hordor?
Dude, listen, I'm not gonna say my bet is on Jon Snow to die. But zombie Hordor. Fuck. Maybe. That would be funny if it was. That'd be funny if it was.
I don't think the Night King's actually going to show up. At least not at Winterfell.
Really? Do you think he'll march? Where do you think he's going to go then?
I think the Night King is probably already wrecked at least a good amount of the area down in the Riverlands and the Erie. And there's one one comment from the scene producers that made me kind of scratch my head. All of the defenses at Winterfell, they're assuming the Night King is just going to go straight to them. That might not necessarily be the case.
I don't know. We see one part of the trailer where they're fighting in front of the wall, and then you see them on the battlements. So they're gonna initiate the fight outside Winterfell and fall back within the castle. That makes no sense though if you're plotting a retreat, unless you retreat through the crypt.
Yeah, I mean, why not just initially arm the battlements rather than going out in force? You know, with Daenerys's army. I mean, that's the other thing too, is that the Night King understands what Bran is. You know, so would he expect Bran? Would he expect Bran to be expecting the Night King to come after Bran? I don't know if that makes sense. You know, like a kind of a reverse psychology almost. Would the Night King expect Bran to use himself as bait, I suppose?
Well, yeah, it's this is chess, and you're thinking 3 moves ahead, but you're also thinking, what are they going to do? And then you watch them actually make the moves you already planned for, and you're like, all right, now it's that's how you get a 3-move or 4-move checkmate.
Well, Mad Dodge knows this, but I don't know if I've talked to you about this, 40. The Night King and Bran both seem to share some of the same abilities, but we've only ever seen Bran look into the past. The Night King seems to have the ability to look into the future. I believe the Night King is not going to fall for that trap. And honestly, you don't really need the Night King there. If what has been speculated is true, if you go back to season, I think it was 2 or 3, at least 100 of Craster's sons have been sacrificed. And I went back and counted. There's only been 6 or 7 tops White Walkers that have been killed, which means there's at least 90 White Walkers. You wouldn't really need the Night King. And if he can flank them, especially with an undead dragon, just swarm them. Just fuck their shit up. There's no way in hell they would be able to hold off against them. Just the Night King by himself on Viserion could go fuck shit up. I mean, if he can destroy the wall, just let your generals go do their thing, and the Night King can just go off and raise a complete army just on his own.
Yeah, I mean that's the other thing too. I mean, you're talking about the Night King. I mean, granted, the Night King had to have an undead dragon in order to destroy the wall, but I mean, nevertheless, he has that dragon. So Daenerys might have 2 dragons, but it's just like, what are the consequences of the battle between 2 of Daenerys's dragons versus 1 undead dragon? You know, not to count for the White Walkers or the, you know, even if the Night King himself wants to show up at the battle at Winterfell, the Night King can simply just turn a second dragon or something if he wanted to. You know, I mean, something like that isn't outside the realm of possibility. It's, you know, that fight would be completely unpredictable.
Well, and I don't think the Night King would even risk. I mean, he's already risked a lot just trying to get that 1 dragon. I don't think he would risk it trying to just take out Winterfell. And I think the reason that Rhaegal was essentially giving Jon Snow quite literally a trial by fire, you know, how to fly a dragon, because he's gonna have to know how to fly a dragon if you're gonna keep up with the Night King. Like Drogon's, to be perfectly blunt, Drogon's too big and too clunky to be able to effectively fight an undead Viserion in the sky. Like, he's just too quick. Drogon's powerful, don't get me wrong, but I don't think Drogon in a one-on-one fight would be able to beat undead Viserion being ridden by the Night King. I don't think the Night King's gonna even bother with it though. If I had to bet anything, that 1 shot we got in the episode preview, that's Dany on Drogon, because also you have to remember.
There's no betting. That is Dany. Another YouTuber froze it there, lightened it up. It's definitely Dany.
Well, and also you have to remember, you're flying on a dragon. It's not like you have a headpiece or anything on. There is a gigantic winter storm. You're not going to have much visibility. Not only that the Night King is essentially warging the undead dragon and can see through the eyes of pretty much every White Walker or White. So he's definitely got situational awareness, much better than anyone else. He doesn't have to worry about all the snow and like the storm. So your visibility is cut down immediately. You would be screwed.
Well, I mean, taking that into consideration, that's one more reason for him to not even show up.
I don't think Dan and Dave will be clever enough to not have him show up. Let's be honest about the writers here. So
I think he'll show up at the end.
That's a fair point. But no, we'll see. And I think we should go ahead and sign off because 40 needs to go make that video. He doesn't put out enough fucking stuff. God damn it, 40. When are you gonna put out some stuff for this channel? No, I'm kidding.
I'm not gonna lie. I think I might steal that whole conversation about the price of rape. I'm not gonna lie. That was pretty entertaining.
It's all yours, dude. You owe me 10 shekels. No,
only 10. That's not even the price of one.
Yeah, only 10. Well, shit. I'll have you know that's only like what, $20. That's not bad. Okay.
That only gets you a season 1 aria.
No. But good night, everybody. Good luck. And don't go to France. Come back tomorrow though for the World War I show and of course the Game of Thrones live reaction where we turn into fangirls for about 2 hours. Later, everybody.